Sign the divorce papers.
Even though my husband, who believed my mother-in-law's lies more than me, and eventually kicked me and the kids out into the cold, said that it's impossible. Since we weren't originally married, I told him the truth. From now on, I'll be happy with the children. My name is Andrea. Shortly after our 2 daughters were born, my husband passed away. My parents had already passed away, so my father's brother, or my uncle and his wife, who lived nearby, helped me and my kids to make ends meet in the house my husband had left me. My uncle and his wife didn't have children, and I had been treated like a real daughter by them since I was young. I started working as a clerk at my uncle's company. I had been a housewife since I got married. While dreaming of someday earning income from my hobbies, I enjoyed making clothes for my daughters. But when my husband passed away, I realized that I needed a steady income to raise our 2 children, and my uncle reached out to me. My uncle's company was in the manufacturing industry, not particularly large, but they took pride in making good products. That's where I met Chuck. Chuck was also a mid-career hire. He had a history of divorce and had even married a colleague before, which made it uncomfortable for him to stay at the company, so he apparently changed jobs. But he was diligent and dedicated to his work, and his gentle personality made him gradually become someone relied upon by those around him. Eventually, we started dating and made a promise to get married. Chuck would take care of the children, and they were attached to him. I thought it would be better for the young girls to have a father, so I decided to think positively about it. However, it had only been less than 3 years since everything disappeared, so I had doubts. I consulted with my uncle and asked him to be a witness to the marriage. And since we were both remarrying, we didn't have a wedding ceremony. We decided to just invite family members to a seat when things settled down. Chuck moved into the house left by my previous husband, and our new life began. I suggested selling this house and renting an apartment because I thought it might be bad to live together in the house where I lived with my previous husband, but everyone said it wasn't necessary. They said the children would be used to it here. I thought they said that for our sake, but apparently not. Chuck was a single child and grew up in a single-parent household. He had been living with his mother since childhood. Perhaps because of that, he was very devoted to his mother. Whenever something happened, he worried about his mother living alone. At first, I thought he was a kind person, but gradually I felt something different. No, I could even say he worshipped her. I hoped nothing would go wrong, but that feeling became a reality.
Let's live together here with my mom.
One night after putting the children to bed, Chuck suddenly said that. Huh?
It's okay, right? We have an extra room anyway.
It's not that kind of problem.
Then what kind of problem is it?
How should I know? It's troublesome to be told suddenly. Don't decide on your own. You should consult with me.
Why should I? If Mom wants to do that, you should follow.
I don't know.
Are you against my mother coming?
It's not about being against it. I just want time to think.
What do you need to think about? Are you going to leave Mom alone as she gets older? Wow, I thought you were kind, but...
It's not that. I had vaguely thought that there may be a day when I live with my mother-in-law. But I had only met my mother-in-law once when I visited her for the wedding. I didn't know what kind of person she was. Although I had heard a lot about the good points of my mother-in-law, it was from Chuck's perspective, so she was still an unknown person to me. Without knowing each other's personalities well, isn't it too sudden to live together? First of all, I think it's pushy for my mother-in-law, who has a daughter-in-law and grandchildren she has never met, to try to live in the house. But I couldn't say that to Chuck, who put his mother first. I couldn't give a clear answer and was ambiguous, but there was no one to understand my feelings. On the next day off, my mother-in-law came rolling in with her luggage. Andrea, nice to meet you. Florence and Charlotte, be nice to Grandma, okay? Oh, I'm so happy to live in such a spacious house. Thanks to Chuck marrying you, I'm glad I have a good son. My mother-in-law seems to want to think of herself as a lucky person. But this was the house my previous husband had built for our family, so my mother-in-law was just being naive. She seemed to admire her son more than anything else. But apparently, she had already left the apartment where she used to live, so I couldn't kick my mother-in-law out, and there was nothing I could do. I agreed to let my mother-in-law have the vacant room, and living together began. Even for the children, it was confusing to be suddenly asked to call someone they had only met once Grandma. The children always stuck to me, keeping their distance from my mother-in-law. Even so, my mother-in-law complained to me, saying, "These kids are so unsophisticated. They're not Chuck's kids, so it can't be helped, but what kind of discipline are you using, Andrea?" My mother-in-law, who criticized me, didn't do anything related to the children's nursery school pickups, feeding them, or bathing them. Even though we lived together, I was doing everything on my own. And not only that, my mother-in-law didn't lift a finger to do any housework at all. Laundry, meal preparation, and cleaning up were all increased by one adult's portion of the burden. My mother-in-law wasn't working. She just watched TV and relaxed at home. Sometimes she would go out and buy whatever she liked. If she had the luxury to do so, I wish she would support us financially, but she didn't even give us a single dollar. If we were going to live together, I wanted to set some rules in advance, but it was too late to do anything now. If I tried to say something to my mother-in-law, she would come back with 10 times more complaints, so it seemed that my mother-in-law didn't like anything I did. The way to fold the laundry that hasn't been cleaned properly, the late meal times, and the bland taste of food, all of these attitudes towards my husband are bad. There's no end to listing them all. I'm juggling work, childcare, and household chores to the best of my ability. But ever since my mother-in-law started living with us, Chuck, who used to take care of the kids while I was out, has been glued to his mother's side. "Chuck, your mother is still healthy, so maybe she could help out a little." Just asking her to take care of the kids would be a big help, and I think it would help the kids get along with their grandma too.
What are you saying? My mom raised me alone and worked hard all her life. I want to make things easier for her.
Well then, you should help a little more too.
I'm busting my butt in the scorching worksite all year round.
Well, I have overtime every day.
Okay, but can't you leave on time?
Yeah, but after working full-time, I have no time for myself with household chores and childcare. I think I'll have some time after the kids go to bed, and I end up falling asleep tired, and before I know it, it's morning. This kind of life has been going on for a long time now. There are things I can't ask my husband for help with, and there's one thing I want to say to my mother-in-law. The heating bills have skyrocketed since she came. Electricity, water, gas, there's so much wasteful spending. I try to save and minimize waste as much as possible, but whenever I try to turn off the air conditioner, lights, or TV in her room, she asks why I'm turning them off. She takes long baths more than once a day, even if it's just for a short outing, and she uses the shower and hair dryer excessively. The shampoo and body soap are also disappearing quickly. Even when I ask Chuck to talk to his mother about cooperating more and saving, he just comes back saying,
"She's been struggling in a single-parent household and living in poverty, so let her do as she pleases."
I reluctantly decided to ask his mother myself. "Lydia, I've been telling the kids not to waste electricity and water. I'd appreciate it if you could cooperate too." But my mother-in-law just looked at me and said, "Are you living a cramped life with your friends too?" She made a sarcastic remark, but eventually said, "Fine, I understand. I'll try to endure a little for Chuck's sake." It seemed like she understood at least a little bit. However, my mother-in-law was just pretending to understand. Deep down, she had other plans. As usual, after putting the kids to bed and lying down, I was woken up by Chuck.
"What are you saying to my mom?"
"Huh?" I couldn't understand for a moment because I was half asleep. Chuck glared at me like a demon.
Why are you so cold?
What's wrong? I don't know what's going on. And while I'm trying to figure it out, my eldest daughter, Florence, wakes up and starts crying, still half asleep.
Didn't you tell my mom not to use water and electricity? She's shivering in a dark and cold room without turning on the electricity or air conditioning.
Huh?
Who do you think is supporting your life? I didn't think you were this cruel.
I started crying while holding Florence in my arms, reflecting on my thoughts. I don't remember saying that to my mother-in-law, and this isn't Chuck's house that he built. I didn't say anything like that. I just asked her to cooperate a little more in saving water and electricity.
Maybe you just said it in a harsh way. She was shocked by your harsh words, so she said that she thought it would be a good idea to just do it.
I was foolish to trust my mother-in-law, who readily agreed after being scolded. My mother-in-law had been lying to me all along, and Chuck seemed to believe what his mother said more than me.
Apologize to Mom.
Huh? I'm not an unreasonable person, so why do I have to apologize? I feel like crying, but I have no choice. My mother-in-law is sarcastic to my face, and behind my back she spews lies to Chuck. While enduring my mother-in-law's sarcastic remarks and lies, the days passed by. How long will this continue? It's a bitterly cold year-end, and starting today I'm off work and Chuck went shopping. My mother-in-law said she was going out with her friends. I was spending a peaceful afternoon with the kids for the first time in a while. We read picture books and drank hot cocoa leisurely. Then I saw white flakes falling outside the window. Look, Florence, Charlotte, it's snowing. The girls got excited and ran to the window. Mom, can we make a snowman? I want to make one too. If it's piled up tomorrow morning, let's make a big snowman together. The kids shouted with joy, clapping their hands and jumping around. Then Florence stopped and saw something outside. Mom, it's Grandma and Dad. I sighed internally. They're back already? Before they start complaining again, I have to start preparing dinner, I thought as I got up. Then the front door swung open with force and I heard Chuck's voice. I didn't understand what was happening as I ran to the front door, put on my sandals, and stepped outside. What's going on?
Why didn't you let Mom in?
Huh?
What if she gets sick outside on such a cold day?
When I looked at my mother-in-law, she was wiping tears and slipped past Chuck and me, heading inside.
Did you lock Mom out?
But Lydia, you said you were out with your friends, right?
Don't play dumb. She said you threw her out.
I didn't do that.
No matter how much she called, she said she couldn't get in.
I said I didn't do that.
So you were against my mom moving in with us. But that doesn't mean you should treat her like this.
What? Why would I do that? Then Florence and Charlotte came outside. Mom, what's wrong? It's nothing. It's cold outside. Let's go inside. As I was about to finish my sentence, the door suddenly closed in front of me. Huh? Get out. What? Get out and cool your head. Wait a minute. This is my home now.
We're married, so it's my house.
I was locked out in the cold weather in sandals, apparently. It wouldn't have been so bad if it was just me, but the young children were with me too. I finally understood. Those two just wanted to kick me out and take over this house. How foolish I was. The only ones I could rely on were my uncle and aunt. In thin clothes, we desperately headed for my uncle's house along the cold, snowy evening road. It was getting darker and the snow was getting heavier. The children were crying as they walked, which they would have enjoyed if the situation were different. When I arrived at my uncle and his wife's house, which was lit up, I couldn't help but burst into tears myself. Uncle, we got kicked out by Chuck.
I see. It's a good thing I didn't sign the papers.
Huh?
Come inside and get warm for now. Girls, you were cold, right? It's all right now.
That night I was stopped at my uncle and aunt's house. I told them both what had happened. They listened to me attentively. As I was thinking about what I was going to do, my uncle said to me,
Let's go get your precious home back and have faith.
After celebrating New Year's at my uncle's house, I decided to return home for a visit, although I was not enthusiastic about it. I left the children with my aunt and headed home in my uncle's car. Parking the car in the yard, I went to the front door alone and pressed the intercom.
Where have you been? Have you been thinking about your actions?
I wonder what he's talking about. Not long after the intercom went silent, the door opened. He had a document in his hand.
If you don't understand, it can't be helped. But a woman like you has to leave, you know?
What he held out to me was the divorce papers.
Sign the divorce papers.
Divorce is out of the question, you know.
Right. If we divorce, you'll be an old hag with 2 kids. No way out of that. If you apologize quietly, I might forgive you.
We're not even married.
Huh?
I'm not your wife or anything. We never formalized anything, so technically we're not married. I mean, we never filed the paperwork, so we're not married. The company president was supposed to act as a proxy for us, but he lost it, he says.
Lies. I lied about losing the marriage license, but it's true that I didn't file it.
And with that, Chuck was speechless, his face turning pale. Then Uncle came in.
Boss? Sorry, Chuck. It was my mistake. It's not a laughing matter. Sorry. I heard rumors about you, so I was just waiting to see before filing the paperwork. Rumors? Aren't you divorced and paying alimony and child support? I knew you had a divorce history, but you were probably hiding the fact that you had children. I asked a few questions while you came here from your former company, which is owned by a friend of mine. If you had only come to my company, it would have been fine, but if you remarried to my niece, it would have been a different story. Oh, Andrea didn't tell you? Her father is my brother. What? You just wanted to make it easy on your mother, so you went after Andrea, who owns the house, right? Why did you try to take advantage of Andrea just to make things easier for your parent? What's wrong with trying to make things easier for your parents? You're the one who needs to cool your head. Get out of Andrea's house. How could you take advantage of her? If you think you can live peacefully, then you should have talked properly before filing the paperwork.
Chuck tore up the divorce papers he had in his hand while sobbing. Thanks to my uncle, we were able to take back the house my husband left us. Chuck and his mom, who's now no longer my mother-in-law or anything, left, and the two of them rented a cheap apartment. I heard that he quit his job voluntarily and is looking for a job while working on a part-time daily basis, but his life is difficult because he is paying his ex-wife's alimony and child support. Not only that, but Chuck's mother has a habit of wasting money. I used to spend a lot on utilities at our house because of her, but it seems that it was not on purpose, as she's been like that even when she was living alone with her son. Actually, shortly after Chuck left work, I quit my job too. I didn't want to be the subject of gossip at work, but more than that, I wanted to spend some more time with my children. I'm still looking for a new job while struggling with household chores and childcare. Thanks to the help of many people, we were able to regain our happiness. Now we're living a peaceful life as a family of 3.